Welcome. This is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council. Thank you for joining us for our weekly podcast, Innovation Matters. It's interesting as we start thinking about things that we're going to be doing in the area of technology. One of the biggest things we look at is the history of what's taken place with technology, specifically in the Boise Valley. And one of the most innovative things that have taken place to change the landscape and the complexities of what's taken place with a knowledge economy in our state is having Hewlett Packard locate to this community back in the 1970s. It has transformed everything that we do and we know about technology. If that event had not taken place, where we've had two divisions of HP locate to Boise back in the 1970s, Boise would be a much different place, and it wouldn't be as advanced as we are with respect to innovation and technology. So we get the tremendous opportunity today to be joined by Andy Binder, the Vice President General Manager for HP here at the Boise site. He's going to be joining us. And what I thought we could do, Andy, welcome to Innovation Matters.
Oh, thank you very much. Great to be here. I'm glad to represent HP and share our story with you today.
Andy, before we actually talk about that story, can you tell a little bit about what you do? I want everybody to know that you're part of the Idaho Technology Council Executive Committee, which thank you for being part of that. But tell everybody about your history and what brought you to Boise.
Oh, well, I'm a reliability engineer by training, and when I got through graduate school in the 80s, I was looking for a company that was known for quality and reliability, and HP is today and was at the time the hallmark of that. And so I jumped at the opportunity to move here to Boise. I started out as a reliability engineer working on the LaserJet 2P printer. It was the first printer under $1,000 that we brought to the market, and it was very exciting to be a part of that in the growth phase of HP. So I've been fortunate and had a multidisciplinary experience at HP. So I started out in R&D, worked my way up into management, and then had a career change 9 years into my life at HP, where I moved back to Chicago, where is my hometown, because my father had a stroke and we needed to give him a little extra time and attention, and so we moved back, and I went into sales. So I actually went for sales for HP for 9 years, and after my father had passed away, looked for an opportunity to come move back west and moved to the Vancouver, Washington office of HP, where we actually make our inkjet printers. And so I've worked on both the laser side of the house as well as the ink side of the house. And then 5 years ago, they asked me to move back to Boise again. So I'm very, very happy to be back in Boise. I lived my first 9 years at HP in Boise and really enjoyed it. And it was great to come back and manage a business at HP. So I'm the Vice President, General Manager of the Toner Supplies and Solutions Division, which is essentially all the LaserJet supplies that HP makes, and a big team here based in Boise working on both that as well as the laser printing. So had a wonderful, exciting career in general management in the most recent years, but did everything for engineering, sales, marketing, and it's been a great experience for me.
Well, we could call you a boomeranger then, couldn't we? Because you actually came here.
Yep.
Then you went and left and came back. And so we appreciate that totally. So, and I guess that's kind of the point is that you came to Boise because of the decisions that were made back in the 70s by Ray Smellick, who brought the printing and imaging division here. And then we had, I think it was a memory and storage area that Dick Hackborn brought about 4 years later in the 70s. So that has been transformative to the area. What are your thoughts about that? Having HP in the community, what's HP meant to the valley here?
Well, I mean, it's an amazing story. Since 1973, when we bought 150 acres at the corner of Cloverdale and Chinden Boulevard, HP has been a fundamental member of the Idaho technology community. As you'd mentioned, we started out with impact printers and tape drives, so things that were kind of unique at the time. I think the evolution for HP is obviously the laser printer. We first started introducing laser printers in 1980, but it wasn't until 1984 when we introduced the blockbuster LaserJet that we really took off in the Boise Valley. And so that was great to be part of those go-go times at HP, where we were hiring like mad and working on some very cool technology, and very happy to do so. Um, I think that, you know, it's kind of interesting. It's related to this relationship we had with Canon that developed the LaserJet, and this was one of the strongest technology partnership stories of all time. And you know, 36 plus years later, it's still going strong, but it was based on a handshake. There are no contracts or anything in place between us and Canon, but that's a function of the trust and the engineering that we worked on together with them. It only took us 10 years to get to 10 million printers, and today we've sold over 280 million LaserJet printers and 2 billion with a B toner cartridges.
Oh wait. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to know how that the toner cartridge has been a big business, right? It's
Oh,
been,
absolutely. And it wasn't
yeah.
originally designed to be so. I will tell you from the very beginning, it was kind of like, wow, people are buying a lot of these things. We should probably focus and do
Well,
some
well,
work there.
this is a unique thing here because we've been very fortunate to have two of our chair of the ITC. One of them was Rich Romani, was our original chair, who now guides Bishop Kelly High School. And then we've had the a really unique thing is because Von Hansen was also one of our chairs. And you know, I can remember when I first met Von, he seemed like he was traveling all the time, but he was always going on the Canon relationship. He's going to Japan all the time.
Yep.
And he also told me about how this group of people who came together to be able to do the first laser printer and the evolution of it. So, I mean, this is what's really important is the R&D that's taken place at this site, and the development has been pretty amazing, hasn't it?
Amazing. Yeah. And like I said, when I first came here in the 80s, and when you talked about technology companies, there was HP and there was Micron, and I'm sure there were a lot of smaller companies, but that was kind of the view of the world. And you know, over 30 years, because of the partnerships and even our internal talent, the people that you mentioned, that HP has impacted many companies in the Valley that either launched their business as a result of HP and were working at HP, or grow their business in the Treasure Valley. In fact, we have what we call this technology map that shows all the companies that are a function of, you know, in partnership from HP and Micron. And actually, it's pretty amazing to realize that over 55 companies are here today, either because, you know, HP Talents helped start it, or they grew here in support of HP. So our DNA is all over the Idaho technology community. And you mentioned you know, Von, and there are people like George Mulhern over at Cradlepoint. He was a leader over at HP. Gary Atkins, who started Extended Systems, Bill McGlynn over at Memjet, and there's a long list of HP people, even long retired people that are still involved in the technology community here. And it's great to see that energy and vitality. And obviously, Rich Raimondi is very much involved with the education side of Bishop Kelly and all, but he's, you know, a legend in the community as well. So it's great to have that footprint, that impact on the market by having such strong technology and people here, and impacting the Boise
Yeah,
Valley.
I would agree. I would agree. I would definitely call Rich Romani a legend, but don't let him hear that too much because it might go over his head. That guy, no, they're great people. By the way, what do you think about all of this? Here you have, I mean, a great example of that ecosystem thing that you were talking about, Andy, because you have you'll have that Boise tech map that you were talking about, and honestly, you'll see it has like the rings that like a solar system that comes out from
Exactly.
HP, and you'll see that HP is the most transformative when it comes down to all of these companies that have started. I mean, Steve Hodges, he came here, I think, from as an engineer back in like 1980, and he started and at a good time after working, I think, at HP for 6 years. He came out and started 6 different companies. You know, the last one, the M2M, he sold to a company for I think $33 million, and it was just it's phenomenal what's taken place here because of that. If I could on that front, um, can you talk a little bit about what took place with HP back when they took Hewlett Packard and HP Inc. and they made the separation? What took place? And that was probably about what, 7 years ago?
Yeah, it's 2015, so just almost 5 years ago. And
Okay,
it
five
was a
years
pretty
ago.
big deal for us at the time because it was the separation of Hewlett Packard into two parts: Hewlett Packard Enterprise and Hewlett Packard Inc. Hewlett Packard Inc. includes both the PC and the print business. Enterprise had the servers, enterprise management, stuff like that, and financial arms. So, quite frankly, that was considered the sexy side of the business. They they were excited about growth. And kind of like the print and PC business was kind of considered boring and pastime, and so it was actually great to have low expectations, because we really embraced it as a company. In fact, HP Inc., we kind of called ourselves the world's largest startup company. So $50+ billion of revenue, but we're calling ourselves
Right,
a startup. But it
right.
was one of those things where we can uniquely embrace that. And I thought that was really, it was really great to do so. And I don't know if you've met Dion Weisler, who was our first CEO of HP Inc., but he's a sassy Australian, didn't like authority. The whole idea of wearing hoodie and jeans with holes in them was what he would normally wear if he wasn't at work anyways. So it fit really perfect at the time. And we did a lot of great things. We brought a new board, we established a new management team, and people stepped up in the organization. They got elevated roles in the organization. So I really think we did a great job of taking that, the brains and the strength of a Fortune 100 company and then really transforming it with the energy and the heart of a startup. And so I think that was really the key part of our reinvention journey. And I will tell you, it's unique because we were able to put our imprint of our culture. We were able to say we are a new company. We took the values that came from Bill and Dave, our founders. And if you're familiar with the HP way, it's something I'm very passionate about and try to live every day. But we tied it into where we were today as a modern company. And I think there was a huge emphasis on the human element, which I'm really proud of, is that diversity and inclusion, your community, the environment were things that were huge priorities for us. And so it wasn't, though, just in words. I think, it was about action. So our board of directors is the most diverse of any US tech company. We have, I think, almost 45% women on the board, over 55% total minorities on the board. Our executive leadership team comes from 8 different countries. I mean, Enrique Lores is from Spain. He's the CEO, but we represent the diversity of the world with our executive leadership team. And, it's over 33% minorities and 30% women. So, it's important to have diversity and inclusion, but it's really, the step beyond that is really trying to make a difference. And I think with the startup, we were able to and really advance that and really make our mark and make some statements about who we were or who we are as a company. And it really has had an impact in our brand and the significance of people associated with HP Inc. And we're very
No,
proud of that.
Andy, I think that's a great point because don't you? What always happens is you see this a lot of times. I mean, like if you ever do a study of the business in the United States, one of the parts that is you kind of see how a company becomes, and it goes through a cycle, and the cycle basically starts going up where it really is innovative and it does all these great things. Then it becomes kind of like they ride a cash cow, and then it rides it out. And I guess I could say this. You could take a look at the printing part of that, and then you kind of ride this. How big is innovation with, I mean, you just talked about how big innovation is for HP. Talk about that as because that can help transform and change what you do, right?
Yeah, and let me give you an example. Could make this real for you. HP just introduced a printer called the D300 Bio Printer. It's a very cool example of innovation, but also driving yourself into adjacent industries. So HP has huge intellectual property around microfluidics. This is the stuff ink cartridges are made of. They spit tiny, tiny droplets of ink. And what we did is created a device that enables automation in laboratories so that, you're basically printing pharmaceutical samples. And so if you remember the movie about Theranos where they had all those little droplets going into the beakers and everything else, think
Right.
about that level of detail. We always did that when it came to ink technology. And so now we are pivoting our business to do this in the research, especially around COVID. So in July, we donated a bunch of printers to research laboratories in both the US and Europe to accelerate drug and vaccine development for COVID-19. this is an example of taking a technology that's 30 plus years old and being able to leverage it and use it in new parts of the business. Same thing we did with our 3D business. Our 3D business is based on ink technology, the ability to spray layers, precise layers, and to build a model on a 3D scale. So yeah, so people say that the printing industry is old and and mature. You start thinking about all the different things we've been able to go out and do. I like the bio printer, like 3D printing with our technology, and it's pretty amazing.
And those are pivot points you make because you've got to make sure you iterate out, right? That's a big part of innovation, is iterating to a new step or a new function or something else that's going to meet the customer's demands, correct?
Absolutely. And then you really, it's a lot about what are your core competencies as a company, right?
Yeah.
You want to, what are you good at and what can you do to leverage and grow? And I think you see that example in many other industries as well. Honda, as they've diversified around the core capabilities they have about building a motor, where else could they do that? And they've done that as well. And I think that's the same thing with HP. We keep asking ourselves, what's next? What's our next opportunity? Um, and I think, as I mentioned before, we talked about environmental, we talked about diversity. Sustainability is absolutely critical. And, printing gets a lot of knocks with regards to that. But quite frankly, I mean, we've made such huge inroads in sustainability and the impact on the market that we have. And a very simple program that was developed in Boise, which we call the HP Planet Partners program, was developed over 25 years ago to have recycling for both old ink and HP toner cartridges. And we recycled over 875 million cartridges since the program started, removing
Wow.
800 million tons of waste from landfills. And recently, and I don't know if you've seen some of this stuff, ocean-bound plastics are becoming a huge issue in the market. And so HP has really been at the forefront of saying, what can we do to remove those from the ocean? And so we've done that by removing over 250 tons of ocean-bound plastics and put them into the production of new ink cartridges. And then on products, and you'll see this happening on the laser, but the example I give you today is on our ink products. The Tango printer actually is a certified carbon neutral device. It's 30% recycled plastic, and about 50% of that recycled content in the cartridges that are going in is actually made from ocean-bound plastics. So we have a huge operation we set up in Haiti to get water bottles that have been thrown in landfills or wasted and using those to produce new products as well. So innovation is not all about just a new device and faster printers and things like that. It's what you can do with what you have to make a better impact on the environment and society as well.
Well, and that's what it's really important to note that HP's always been a good community partner and really concerned about the environment, and we're making sure you're making the world a better place as well as delivering stellar products. So if you can, is there, sometimes when people start looking at Boise and HP, they recognize that HP's been such a big part of the community. What's HP's long-term plans in the Boise market?
Well, HP is very much committed to the printing business. Our laser printing business is based in Boise, and the core technologies there. We have operations related to managed print services for print, but also device as a service. So we have a core team focused on that here in the Boise Valley. And we have a lot of other support teams. We have a large customer support organization that's based here. Our Indigo teams, we have support here for that, and some of the other functions within the organizations. Obviously, Boise is core for those parts of the business for us, and we're committed to continue to be successful in those areas. And so as long as there's laser printers, there's going to be a Boise site and a Boise site presence for us. And so we continue to make that commitment to the
Well,
community.
it's a fantastic, by the way, we have to thank HP. We have the Idaho Deal Flow Report and the Idaho Knowledge Report that the Indigo Press prints, and it's just fantastic. They're just so crisp. They're gorgeous. What a great printing process. So thanks for
Yeah,
doing that
and
for us.
even during the COVID crisis, there were some very cool things we did. We print over 200,000 of these cards that we gave for United Way that we put in grocery stores throughout the Treasure Valley to have the resources they have to work with the COVID crisis. So it's great to be able to leverage the technologies you have. We have a small presence in 3D printers here, so we actually printed over 3,000 face masks that were, when the COVID crisis started, we helped make those and
Wow.
provide them to the local healthcare providers in the community. And so it is that kind of thing. I will tell you, the HP employees love the community. They want to do everything they can help out. And so every time we have a crisis or an opportunity to make a difference, people step up and say, how can we help? And those are just two examples.
You know, there's another one that seems, Andy, that you've been really engaged with HP, and that is to be able to help kind of women in technology
Mm-hmm.
and be able to increase. Because if you take a look at it, we're going to be having a lot of demand on the technology side to be able to make sure that we have the right type of talent and that we can grow that side, whether it's software engineers, mechanical engineers, you name that. But what I was really impressed with is we really need to make sure we get more women in technology, and that starts at a very young age as they come through kindergarten and through. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative with what HP would like to see with respect to women in technology in the Boise Valley?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's something I'm very personally passionate and excited about. This is one of those things where you have to, it's like farming a field. You just don't plant a crop and then assume to harvest it the next day. It is a lot of investment. That's something that HP has been willing to do in so many areas and has done. Our involvement in Idaho Technology Council, the Women Innovators Organization, and many other organizations to really help drive STEM and also get women in STEM, but to really do it every phase. I mean, from grammar school to middle school to high school and to college, and then in the professional careers, and really helping to do what it takes to make sure that the interest level is always there. I have some personal stories of my niece who was going to study engineering. She got all the way through her sophomore year of college, and she hit calculus. I don't know, it was 2 or 3, and it was like a brick wall for her. And I said, engineering is not all about calculus. I mean, you got to get by that. And helping people know it's okay, that you don't necessarily have to hit home runs every time you're struggling with a class is really helpful. And the problem with women in engineering, you sit around, you look in that calculus classes, and they don't see as many women in there as men's, and they maybe think that, maybe that's not for them. And unfortunately, she chose a different path because some of the technology challenges. And I think we need to help get the momentum going. People will always find roadblocks along the way. There are going to be difficult classes, and you just need to find a peer group to help you work through that and feel confident that you get through to the other side. This is just one example of what we need to do with our women in our community, is help them every step of the way, give them role models every step of the way, let them know that there is going to be challenges. Nothing's free and easy, but the reward is big. And I think, HP is very committed to that.
Well, it's a great initiative, and we'll look for always have anything that we can do in tandem with you on that, Andy. We'd love to be able to get more talent, and we'd also like to be able to look for uh, diversity as well as helping that rural urban divide. So how we can get more of our rural communities more tech savvy and
Yep.
integrated. So
Well, that's a great example, because if this COVID crisis is actually helping in a way there, right? Because the people who are
yes, they
remote
are.
and disconnected, if we can get them PCs, and I think this HP PC refresh program we've been working on is to get old PCs and renew them and get them out to students. If they can get connected, then being rural is not a disadvantage in Idaho if we can get you connected online, and COVID is proving that. So we want to help and make sure that students are successful, whether they're in rural communities or in the cities like Boise itself.
We do, and we really appreciate what you've done on this, as well as Idaho Business for Education, and others
Mm-hmm.
have really worked
Exactly.
really solid in that. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so last, I kind of want to come back to this last question for you, because I think that the biggest thing that changes and allows the Boise marketplace in Idaho to be a leader in the country when it comes down. One of the goals from the Idaho Technology Council is to be able to make Idaho the most innovative state in the union. There's a lot to that, but you've talked earlier about innovation on this. How can we make Idaho the most innovative state in the union? Any thoughts on that, just from an overall conceptual basis?
Whew, great question. I do think, having like-minded people get together and share ideas. This is why I love the ITC. It's a great example of the diversity of our community when it comes to technology. And a lot of this is just having visibility to who's doing what. A simple story about me and why I chose a career in engineering is because I didn't have much growing up and didn't have a lot of role models, a lot of visibility to see what else was out there choice-wise. But actually happened to be one of my neighbors was a civil engineer for the state of Illinois. And he had a company car. And, you know, I grew up in a blue collar community where people didn't have things like that. And I said, how do I get a company car? He said, well, I'm a civil engineer. And I said, well, I'm going to be an engineer so I can get a company car. I give that as an example because it was my very limited view of, you know, what were those options out there in technology. And I was just happened to be fortunate to have a neighbor that was a civil engineer. I think the same thing happens when it comes to technology. There's so much out there. What can we do to drive visibility of the great innovation that's happening in the state of Idaho? And it's not, you know, the traditional high-tech companies like HP, but there's things that are going on in places like Simplot and the technology that goes in food processes and things like that. I think it's really our job to drive greater visibility, not only within the state so that we can develop the talent, because I think that's what we want to do is invest in education and make sure we're educating people in STEM and getting them to be in the engineering fields and the technology fields and give back, but also to attract the talent into the state of Idaho. And one of the things we and I've talked about is what can we do to brand and help people be aware that, you know, Idaho is a tech hub. It's a great place to invest. And I think what Idaho has going for it that not very many other states is the quality of life. So I think the secret for us is tying in the quality of life that you have in Idaho with the technology capabilities we have and marrying those things together. I think you would be a major draw, the state of Idaho, bringing technology in by bringing visibility to both of those things.
I love that. And I do really like the cohesive force that we can have collectively together, because then we can do a lot of great things. I also want you to know, since the time that the technology, Pat Sewell was at HP and they started that, and then George Mulhern took this company, Cradle Point, that is now being purchased by um, Ericsson. It's phenomenal what these type of things have done to our community. And
Mm-hmm.
so all the way through, Andy, thank you so much. This has been, I have always said this, I can't believe as you take a look at our community, how successful we've been because of, we're standing on the shoulders of HP. But more importantly, HP is also, like you just said, you're making all these new technologies and these pivots that you're making within your company. And so thank you for all that you do, and thanks to all that HP has done for our community.
It was my pleasure to be here. Great to catch up with you.
All right. Thanks so much, Andy. We're so very thankful to have Andy Binder on as with HP, and we would also like you to continue to follow all of the things we have with the Idaho Technology Council on YouTube TV and our channel there. Thanks. Join us next week. We're going to hear from Involta, which is a fantastic data center that has come and really helped a lot of companies in Idaho be more effective with their data, their management of data, how they process data. And we're going to have Jim Bowie, who is the president of Involta, as well as Leslie Penny, who's a sales engineer for Involta. So join us next week. And remember, this is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council, keeping you connected with industry and government, because in Idaho, innovation matters. Thanks and have a great day.